Hi, I'm Shawn and we're back here again at Tideland Trail. It's been a while since I've been here. It's now June 1st, so we're into full swing summer. We're going to see what new things we can find here at Tideland Trail and see what we can do as far as making this work. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. Today I think we're going to take the long trail. So we're going to go the long way around, so it's a little bit longer of a walk. However, we should be able to see more of the really nice deciduous plants. We missed the flowers on the poison ivy, but if you look really close in there, you can see some of the berries. So you know that this poison ivy here is flowering, is fruiting. The birds will come and eat that a little bit later on, and then there'll be new poison ivy plants popping up all over everywhere. Here's a plant right here. It's just starting to flower. If I am not mistaken, we saw this one over at the trail over at the Roosevelt Trail. It's C something. But look, the flowers are starting to come out there. You can see the pretty yellow flowers starting to bloom. Maybe we'll see some a little bit further on that have flowers open a little bit more. I think it's called sea elder. And right there is one of those flowers that's a little bit more open. We'll give it another week and those flower rays will be wide open. Here's a plant that might be familiar to many people. This is a native grapevine type of scuppernong grape. And one thing that you don't always see when you're walking around is these flower buds right here, which once it flowers, hopefully it'll turn into fruit. But if we scan this, we can see two more sets of flower buds back in there. So this one will have lots of flowers. Ooh, this looks like some flowers that are starting to open up already. So it's just starting to flower. Won't be too much longer and it should be producing some berries. Here's the red bay. And you see with the red bay, it's getting ready to flower too. So another week or so and you should be seeing red bay flowers open up. Here's another plant. You can see the flower buds on the smilax getting ready to open up as well. So there should be lots of flowers here in the next week or so. Wish I was coming back this way next week. Here's a plant that I don't think that we've talked about. It's the black needle rush. That's this one right here. This plant right here with these long, straight, sharp points on there. It can be a pretty vicious plant, but as you can see, it's nice and dark. That's where it gets its name, black needle rush. Those points on the tips of those leaves are very sharp. Here's a nice pretty view of the marsh. Just an overlook. The tide is high but not super high. Here's an oak tree, often called a water oak. The way you can tell is it's really wide at the top, but it's not really super lobed. It's a nice plant produces acorns for the deer to eat. This plant here with all this new growth, this is Leonia, the pink fetterbush. If we look right back in here, we can see the fruit are starting to form. Not that it's a really edible fruit, but that's the fruit that's formed by the pink flowers. Here's a plant. If I'm not mistaken, this is one of our native blueberry plants. Here's the blueberries that are starting to form on there. So you see the blueberries. Here's one that's a little bit further along. I don't produce a really big blueberry, but it's a member of the blueberry family. Here's a vine with an interesting shaped leaf that I haven't seen before, or at least haven't paid attention. That arrowhead shaped leaf looks like a calistegium. It's growing right there. Have to come back by here again and see if it blooms a little bit later, maybe during the summertime. I don't know if we've taken a look at this tree before or not. This is the bald cypress. See the feathery type leaves on there? Really pretty. It's deciduous, so all those leaves drop off during the winter time. And down there in the soil, it'll produce knees as it gets a little bit bigger. But I don't see any knees, so evidently it's not big enough yet. Here's a plant right here. This is a calethera. You can see it's getting ready to flower. And if we look up here, we can see the seeds from last year's flower. So it'll have a long spike of I think it's white flowers. Maybe we can see one again next week. There are a bunch of these wetland ferns growing along the trail. I wish I was better at identifying what these ferns were. Maybe a cinnamon fern, but I'm not sure. I'll see what I can find out. One thing about ferns is a lot of times on the back side of the leaf, not on this one here, but a lot of times on the back side of the leaf, you'll find the spores. Okay, here's a little plant right here that gets to be quite large. This is a American beautyberry. If I get closer to the plant, you can see that the leaves are opposite. So at each node there's one on either side. They have a serrated or kind of a toothed margin. And then when they bloom right there in the axil of the leaf. We'll have to see when they bloom. But that's pretty cool seeing a little tiny one there. I don't know how well you can see this, but there's the flower of the native honeysuckle, Lonicera sempervirens. Has that pretty red flower with the long tubes on there. It's great for attracting hummingbirds. Here's a top view of an Aurelia spinosa. That whole thing that you're looking at right there is one leaf. If we follow it back down, we can tell it's a leaf because right there on the stem, there are all those little spines right there that indicate that that's the stem, and then the bud that's right there inside that. This one looks like it's infected with either some aphids or some other kind of insect on there. It's got a lot of those white insects all the way around the stem. I don't know if we've talked about the laurel oak before, but this is a laurel oak, and you can tell this is a laurel oak, not a live oak, because the leaves are flat on the margin, whereas a live oak, they usually curl on the edges, and that's usually the difference between the two. This one here has a gall up there on one of the stems. Not sure what caused that gall. This is such a pretty walkway, being able to walk over these bridges. And if we look down here at the ground, we can see a lot of those fiddler crabs moving around. Tide's gone out enough to where they can come out of the ground. You can see them moving around a lot. That big one-sided fiddle crab, big claw in one hand. Something else I like looking at down here, if you can look real close, and I don't know how good you can see it, but there's some snails. They go up the stems of the marsh grass when the tide comes in, and then they go down the stems of the marsh grass when the tide goes out. I don't know what they feed on, maybe the algae that grows on the grass, but that's pretty cool to see. It's just a beautiful view as you walk along. See the water in, see some of the dead trees and shrubs from the salt intrusion. It's so open, it's so green, and so pretty. Here's one of those sea elders with the flower almost fully open. So pretty. know how well you can see it down there, but if you look really close, you can see some of those red stems coming up. That's pretty cool to see. You don't see that just everywhere. I have to get a name for you on that one too. Here's some more of that black needle rush. You can see it grows right on the edge of the tidal pool. Wouldn't want to have to walk through that. I don't know what it is, but something just amazes me about how pretty the marsh can be. If I'm not mistaken, this is the flower from the black needle rush. Those are really pointy. That'd be very vicious. You could probably use those for sewing needles. Here is the live oak. And if we take a look at the edge of this leaf, we can see that it's curled up under. So we can tell that that's different from the laurel oak. It has a similar shaped leaf, but the leaves are flat. Okay, we've talked about poison ivy before, but this one is Virginia creeper. Virginia creeper has 5 leaflets around a central spot. It also has a red stem on it, or kind of has a red stem on it, very much like poison ivy. A lot of people mix those two up, but Virginia creeper is a totally different plant than poison ivy. Most people are not allergic to it, so be careful with that one. You may or may not be allergic to the Virginia creeper. Anyway, I wanted to point that one out to you as well, because it has been on this trail as well, and so I wanted to be able to see the difference between the two. And just to add a little bit, these are the flower buds for the Virginia creeper that are getting ready to bust open. All right, here we are, almost back to the beginning again. So I'm going to go ahead and close out while I'm standing here over the bridge. I'll go ahead and put this together, but it's been wonderful to go around and see some of the plants that were deciduous the last time that I was here, and see some of the flowers that are getting ready to pop out. Almost wish I'd waited another week to come out here on this trail again to see some of the flowers blooming. But hopefully you'll make a trip out here and get to see those flowers. Anyway, until next time, happy trails.